So good afternoon again, everyone. On behalf of the executive, I am Ms. Toya Luiso, our public relations officer of the region, that is. I warmly welcome you to this evening's Know Your Constitution training session. We are especially pleased to acknowledge the presence of our regional officers, our president, who is on the call, our unit officers and membership and other stakeholders who may be here. And we're very pleased that you're here this afternoon to join us. The session is critical in our operations and how we conduct ourselves and function as a PTA. And understanding the Constitution is not merely a formality, but it's really it's fundamental to ensuring that we have clarity, consistency, and accountability in our governance and operations. So this evening, we are honored to be guided by our first Vice President, Ms. Allyson Medina, who brings with her over a decade of dedicated service in various levels of the PTA. She has held distinguished roles, most recently as secretary at both unit and regional levels. And, secretariat is really an office that is regarded as legal custodians. So her insight and experience will help us understand the importance of constitutional adherence and organizational continuity. It's my pleasure now to hand over to Ms. Lacroix, first Vice President. There she is.
Hi.
Madam PRO, the link was updated. Sorry, right? So they can go ahead and register.
No problem.
Okay. Madam PRO, while I am starting the meeting, I'll need you to put up the presentation from your device, please.
No problem. I'm giving you host privileges so that you can function more efficiently.
I'm having issues with it, so I just need you to put it up and you can just follow along. It won't be Okay. Good night again, or good evening again, everyone. And I am so thankful that you all have decided to join us this evening. For those who may not know me, my name is Allyson Medina, and I am currently the first Vice President of the region. And as our PRO would have indicated, I would have served as a president of a unit, the secretariat of the region for several years, as well as the secretariat of the national for a time as well. So that being said, it is critical that we understand our Constitution. Madam PRO, can you start sharing the presentation for me, please? And basically, my role here this evening is to help our members understand the rules, the regulations, the expectations, the obligations, to be able to function. So while we can tell you what presidents are supposed to do and how PTAs are supposed to operate, we cannot do that without the Constitution being our basis. That is our Bible, per se. That is what governs the entire organization, from the top executive to the unit executives, and allows the PTA to accomplish exactly what it was enshrined to do 65 years ago. Okay, so while we're getting the presentation up and running, right, what we're going to cover this evening is the official aims, mission, and structure of the PTA, who qualifies as a bona fide member, official roles, elections, and quorum requirements, annual dues, affiliation fees, policies on non-partisanship, transparency and decision-making, your rights and obligations under the Constitution. So I gather that a lot of members have had either just had a cursory review of the Constitution, or they have not they've not really dived into it. And so for most of y'all, this will be like a first view and or breakdown of Our sessions are supposed to be 2 sessions. And basically, we're going to cover just the general rules and regulations of the organization, as well as what is particular for units in this session. And the next session, we'll expand on what are the obligations of the regional and the national executive and how a lot of the things that we do at that level are supposed to function. As well as some additional committees and all those kinds of things that are catered for under the Constitution. So I've outlined, as what you're seeing now, what we'll be covering this afternoon. So diving right in to the first page, right? So this, when you open your Constitution, is the first thing you will see. Now, the Constitution consists of 21 articles. Basically 21 areas that are covered under the Constitution. This evening, we'll be covering Articles 1 to 6 and Articles 19 to 21. So if you have a copy of the Constitution, those are the articles we're going to be referring to or looking at tonight. Right, so Article 1. So for those who may not be aware, I know we refer to our organization as the National PTA or the NPTA, but the name of our organization is actually the Trinidad and Tobago National Council of Parent Teachers Association, or referred to for the rest of the documentation as the National Council. So the official registered legal name of the organization is actually the Trinidad and Tobago National Council of Parent Teachers Association, commonly referred to as the NPT. And that is what the first article outlines. It gives what the official name of the organization is. So in any legal documents, any legal transactions, that is the name that will be seen. So if you see that name anywhere, you know we're still talking about the NPTA. It's just that we refer to it as a more familiar name of NPTA rather than National Council. Okay. Then Article 2 outlines the aims and objectives of the National Council. The first one being to promote welfare and children and young persons at home, school, church, and the community. So therefore, one of the major aims of the objective is not only to improve or promote the welfare of children at school. So because most of the times our interaction is with the school, right? We assume that PTA is only related to the school. It's not. It's related to home, school, church, and community. So we can impact, PTA can impact the lives of children through the school, through the church, and through the community at various levels. So a PTA doesn't only have to do activities or create programs or anything that is strictly within the school. They can do so within the community as well as within the church. To raise standards of living at home and within the community. Again, that means part of the main objective of any PTA is not only just to help the school improve, but to find ways to raise the standard of living at home and within the community for every child. So that doesn't only mean making sure they have a good school environment. That means it also working with the community to ensure that our children have a safe and vibrant community where they can thrive outside of school as well. To secure adequate laws for the care and protection of children and young persons. So one of the main goals or the main objectives of the PTA as well is advocacy. So we are supposed to advocate not only the Ministry of Education, but anything related to social welfare, protection, to ensure that our children are safe, right, and cared for. So I know we normally just communicate with the Ministry of Education, but we are also supposed to be communicating not just with the ministry, but any other agency that will see to the care and protection of our children. So our stakeholders will be wide and vastly ranging once we're looking at ensuring that we're meeting that objective. To develop among educators parents, and the general public such united efforts that will secure for every child the highest advantages in physical, mental, social, cultural, and spiritual education. Again, that is to ensure that we are reaching out to persons or stakeholders or entities across all spheres to ensure that the children, and I mean, I'm not saying, and notice I didn't say our child or our individual children, but all children of the nation, right, have what they need to ensure that they are physically, emotionally, socially, culturally, and spiritually strong individuals, that the people that we are growing up and placing out into our society in the coming years have that strength, that nurturing abilities, that all of that they need to ensure that we are creating sound citizens, right, to continue the growth and development of our country. Because that is the only how our country will continue to grow and develop, that the children we are raising have a sound mind, a sound basis, are mentally strong, physically strong as well, to ensure that we see our economy, our society continue to grow. To coordinate the activities of all member units under the Parent-Teacher Association, referred to as member units, and to encourage the formation and development of new Parent-Teacher Association. So that basically means that we, the NPTA, or the National Council, is responsible for ensuring that we grow PTA units, that we develop and ensure that we have PTA units in all spheres. So right now, I believe we have about, I would say, 30 PTA units. We are a region that has 144 schools, right? One of the aims is to ensure that PTA units are in all areas, all schools, all entities where a PTA can be formed. To collect and disseminate such information and techniques as may give guidance and direction to member units with a view of increasing their capacity for service and assisting them in the use of the best Parent-Teachers Association. So this is a prime example. This session this afternoon is a prime example of that. Ensuring that we disseminate information, train units, give them techniques that will ensure that they do or they conduct themselves under the best practices available for our association. Madam PRO, you can move on to the next page, please. Okay, so to keep the public and all members units abreast of modern methods of education and to have them informed on matters. So you would have seen, some members would have seen where we would have shared ministry policy. That session we had on SBM last week is a prime example of us ensuring, or the PTA ensuring, that the best methods of education and information are shared with our parents and our units to ensure that they are functioning the way that they're supposed to. To encourage closer memberships among PTA associations by means of conferences, group projects, and participation in matters of mutual interest and concern. So again, ensuring that we share that camaraderie, that we reach out, that we link up, we make connections with other PTA units and other stakeholders to ensure that we connect, we share information, we participate in projects and conferences that will ensure that we continue to grow and develop best practices for our PTAs. Okay, then we're moving on. So that's Article 1 and 2. So that's the first thing we have, right? And that outlines the aims of the PTA. Well, of course, identifies the organization and outlines most of the standard aims and objectives of the PTA. The Article 3 covers the basic policies. So the National Council shall be non-commercial, non-sectarian, and non-partisan. Right, so what that means is basically we are non-profit. We are not for profit. The aim of the organization is not to create a profit. We are an organization, but not a business of making, not in the business of making money. The funds and stuff we collect are for a purpose. which is going back into continuing to grow the PTA and develop them. But it's not as if we are like a Massey, you know, or something like that, where we are required to generate profits. We are non-commercial. It also means that we are non-partisan, not sectarian, meaning that we do not discriminate on any level, basically with regard to religion. So we do not exclude any unit, any group based on their religious practices. We embrace all religions in Trinidad, like the society does in general, right? As well as we are non-partisan in that we do not side, basically. We don't take sides in anything. So basically we are like Sweden in the world. We basically make sure that whatever we are focused on, it's to benefit the child, and we do not take sides in either. We don't take sides in anything, right? So we do not take one side of, say politics, for example. We do not take PNM side or UNC side. We basically we focus on the child, and we do not take sides in that matter. The name of the National Council or the names of any members in the official capacity shall be omitted in connection with any commercial concern or any partisan interest or any purpose of appropriately related to promotion of objects of the National PTA the National Council. So basically what that means is we do not take part, or we do not present ourselves in any way, like I said, siding with anything. So we do not say, well, okay, I am representing, you cannot say I'm representing the National PTA as a member of, say, Massey. I am as a member of a particular political party, all those kind of things. We are objective, right? And we do not represent, if we're going to do that kind of representation, we can't also represent the PTAs, one or the other. The National Council shall refrain from participating directly or indirectly or intervening in any way, including publishing or distributing of statements in any political campaign on behalf of or in opposition to any candidate for public office. So that will again clearly states that we do not directly, indirectly, right, indicate that we are for or against anyone in public office or on a political campaign. So ideally, they shouldn't be seeing anybody outside campaigning. I mean, you might be party, but you really shouldn't be seeing anyone who's a member of the PTA outside there campaigning for somebody, because we're not supposed to be doing that according to that basic policy in the article. And then the National Council shall work with schools to provide quality education for all children and youth, and shall seek to participate in the decision-making process, establishing school policy, recognizing that the legal responsibility to make decisions has been delegated by the people to the Ministry of Education and to the boards of education. So what that basically says is that we need to work with the ministry and the boards of education with regard to the policies that affect our children. Now, we cannot, or we do not have the authority to say we are making a school decision or a policy. We can influence by discussing, or we are obligated to influence by discussing, recommending, lobbying the ministry and the boards of education for things we want to see, or policies we want to see in place with regard to it. And we are obligated to do that. So we are obligated to work to provide that for our children. You can move on to the next page, please, Madam Piero. So the last subsection under Article 3 reads, the National Council shall cooperate with other organizations and agencies concerned with child welfare, but persons representing the council in such matters shall make no commitments that will bind the National Council. So basically, we are obligated to cooperate or work with other organizations, but we shall not make decisions that will bind the General Council to anything. So I myself cannot go to an organization, right, agree to work with something and make a decision that binds the entire organization to a decision, right? Something like that will have to be decided by the organization as a whole, right, when we gather. But I myself am not, individuals are not authorized to make decisions that bind the entire organization when cooperating with other organizations or agencies. Okay, so now we're moving on to Article 4, which generally gives a breakdown of what the organization consists of. So the National Council exists in an incorporated association of its members. Its article of organization comprised of the rules, which from time to time may be amended and are known as the Constitution. So the articles of the organization, which is our Constitution, right, is what governs the association. And the National Council, so remember we are the Trinidad and Tobago National Council of Parent Teachers Association, consists of the following: member units, which are the executive of a school, like all the individuals, most of the individuals here. The regional executive, so the president of the region and all the members that make up our regional executive, we form part of the National Council. The national executive, so of course, there's a national executive for the National Council, right? The central executive is made up of the presidents and secretaries of each region. So each region, each president and the secretary of the region, they form the central executive. Then we have the General Council. The General Council is made up of the members of the National Executive and 5 members from each region. Now, those 5 members are not fixed, right? It's according to when we're having General Council meetings, who the 5 members are in attendance, but that is what the General Council is made up of. The National Executive and 5 members from each region. Then we have internal auditors, which will be appointed by the General Council when we meet, that oversees the finances of the organization, and the annual conference of delegates. Now, the annual conference of delegates is the one time in the year when all of those different elements get together. So this is where unit members, regional executive members, national executive members all gather in one space. It's usually during the first week in November, but if not the first week, it's during November, because that is when we are scheduled to have the annual conference of delegates. And that is basically when we have our national AGM, and usually when we have our elections for the national executive, it takes place then as well. So for this year, this is an election year for the national executive. So come November, members will be required to attend the conference of delegates, because we will be looking to vote in a new national executive. And you'll hear about more about that in the coming months, because it's important, it's very important. The regions shall follow the same educational districts of the country and shall be called. So you would have heard us say, especially when we come to the elections, that there are 8 regions: Port Spain and Environs, St. George. So for those who don't know Port Spain, our boundaries are Lady Young Road, west, down to Carenage and Diego Martin. St. George is everything east of Lady Young Road up to Arima. Northeastern is everything east of Arima up to Toko. Then we have Caroni, which of course is the central part of the country. Then we have Tobago, which is all of Tobago. Then we have Victoria, which is mainly like the southern area, so San Fernando and just beyond San Fernando, that kind of area. St. Patrick is everything from the middle of the country west, so when the middle of, so past San Fernando and environs, and west, so down to Caracas, down that side is St. Patrick's, and everything east of that, so everything on Miaro's side would be southeastern. Okay, we're moving on. Okay, so this is the part I'm sure that most members will be interested in, because this is the part that directly impacts you. So this is the article, Article 6, that covers the member units. Right, so with the first clause, members shall be individual parent-teachers association attached to schools, youth camps, trade centers, and educational institutions. So a PTA unit cannot only be formed in just a school. So any sort of youth group, trade center, educational organization can have a parent-teachers association. Right? That's why we can have PTAs in Scouts. We can have PTAs in police youth groups, right? Anything along those lines, PTAs can be formed. The member unit shall be the base of the National Council. So basically, you are the strength of the National Council, because the National Council is made up of, at its base, all the member units. So basically, it's like how the government runs. The government, right? We have the government that's elected, but the persons who put them there are the people. So the member units are the persons, right? And the national executive would be like the government, if you want an analogy to put it like that. So you are the base, you are the most powerful group in the National Council. Each unit member shall operate in accordance with the unit guidelines provided by the Trinidad and Tobago National Council Association Incorporated. So, like we indicated, each member unit shall operate within the guidelines provided in the Constitution. So the Constitution is what gives us how we are supposed to operate, right? And that is what it says in that clause. Each unit shall adhere to the Constitution of the Trinidad and Tobago National Council for Parent Association. So we are required, we have to operate within the auspices of the Constitution. Each member unit shall pay the prevailing annual subscription fee for the ensuing year, which becomes payable on or before May 30th. So some of the units would have seen we were encouraging you all to pay your subscriptions by May 30th, because according to the Constitution, you're required to submit your subscriptions by the 30th of May. Right? And I know that a lot of times we collect the subscriptions when we do elections, right? And sometimes we take a little while longer because of whatever circumstances, but ideally, subscriptions are supposed to be paid by the 30th of May. And when they say the ensuing year, meaning that, okay, so we are in 2025, right? Payments for 2025 to 2026 should have been made by the 30th of May for all units, right? And that is what that clause says. The annual subscription shall be paid to the regional secretariat, who shall forward it to the general secretary, 100% of the said subscription at every general council meeting, and 25% shall be returned to the region. So what that indicates is that of the subscription, the annual subscription, we, the region, are required to submit it to the National Secretariat, handing over the entire $300, and they will in turn give the region back 25% of that, which is $75, because it's $300 is the annual subscription, right? Which in turn the region will use for any activities with regard to that we need. So for example, all these trainings we're having, we can use it, some of that maybe to fund, say, refreshments, to pay for speakers, all those kinds of things is what that 25% will be used for. Such payment shall be reflected in the biannually regional report at general council meetings. So what that says is when the region goes to our general council meetings, the 5 representatives from the region, we will be required to present a report on any subscriptions that would have been submitted to the National Secretariat, right? So that it can be recorded and to ensure that members understand. Members' record is kept of who has been, what units have paid their dues. Next, the region secretariat shall issue receipts to units. These monies and receipt numbers shall be passed on to the National Secretariat with a duplicate statement from the region. The National Secretariat in turn will issue receipts to the region for subscriptions collected. So I know regions would realize there's a little bit of delay. You would issue the money to us, we would issue your receipt, and then of course we have to submit the money now to National, and then they would issue us a receipt, which we will pass on to you afterwards. But that is required in the Constitution, as you can see. All right, next page, please, Madam Piaro. Any member that does not pay its annual subscriptions by the due date, as indicated in the clause 1, D1 above, shall be deemed in arrears and shall be forfeit of the benefits and privileges of membership until such arrears have been paid in full. Right, so that indicates that if the annual subscriptions are not paid on time, the unit is deemed in arrears and shall not be able to access a lot of the benefits and the privileges that come with being a member of the National Council. Right, and I know we don't really press on it, but according to the Constitution, if this is not met, this requirement isn't met, ideally, the units will not be able to benefit from everything that comes with being a member of the PTA Association, right? And that is not something we don't want. We don't want for our units. We want to make sure that our units are in good standing and they're benefiting. For those who would have had our sensitization unit sessions, you would understand the benefits of being part of the PTA, right? And we understand how important our PTA is. So we want to make sure that our PTAs are all in good standing. Each unit shall forward to the Region National Secretariat a list of elected officers within 21 days of elections. Such information shall be documented on the form subscribed. So persons who would have had the elections know that we normally fill out a form, and that form we are required to submit to the national at the end of elections within 21 days. Each member unit shall hold its elections annually by September 30th each year. It must be conducted by regional officers or such persons or persons delegated by the regional executive unless there's some emergency, example, natural disasters. So ideally, most PTAs are supposed to have their units elections conducted by September 30th. Now, there's a reason for this. This is because the annual conference of delegates is in November. And especially in an election year, we need to make sure that all the list of affiliated schools, everybody who's eligible to vote, all that information is collated and submitted so that we have a free and fair elections. So that's why we try to ensure that most of our elections are completed by September 30th. But it's also a requirement in the Constitution. If for any reason an election cannot be held, the region shall be informed immediately and a new date shall be set. However, the previous date for election shall be retained for the following year. So, according to the Constitution, if you are scheduled to normally have your elections in September, and for some reason it couldn't come off, and elections were not held, say, until November, it's not that November the following year, you're not going to have elections again. You're supposed to have it within the year. So that means the September date should retain, so that you should have your elections in September the following year and not November. That is what that clause would indicate. All right, the next clause is simply a breakdown of the executive officers within a unit, which we all know: president, a vice president, the secretary, assistant secretary, the treasurer, public relations officer, education officer, welfare officer, 2 trustees, right? And coordinators, you can have 3, 5, or 7 coordinators on any executive, right? Okay, and the last clause there says that the immediate past president may be called upon to act if needed. So what that allows is, should something happen, some emergency, and you need someone to come back and lead, if it is that, say, you have a executive and nobody's confident enough to step up and take over the presidential role, should the president have to step out, the immediate past president can be called upon to come back and act as president if needed until that situation, whatever it may be, can be resolved or is resolved. Oh, I left out one line, right? That is under clause F that says at least 4 executive members shall form a quorum for the PTA unit. So what that indicates is the quorum for any executive meeting is 4 members, 4 executive members. Madam Piero? Each unit shall be represented by 5 members of each region, meeting at least 3 must be officers. So we must have, so like we always indicate, there should be 5 representatives of each unit at our regional meetings, right? And at least 3 of them must be officers. So if you have 7 coordinators, you can't send the 5 or the 7 coordinators. There should be at least 3 officers. Anyone from the president to the trustees, 3 of them, and then, of course, 2 coordinators. So if they're all 5 officers, that's not a problem, but there must be at least 3 officers among the members going, right? And if you're sending less than the 5, you should at least have 3 officers going. Right. Like we always indicate at elections, the post of president, treasurer, and public relations officer must not be held by teachers, as this is to avoid conflict of interest with the employer, the Ministry of Education. And of course, that is in our constitution. So if anybody ever wondered where it came from, when we announce it at elections, it's in the constitution. Right. So pay careful attention to the next clause. It says any officer failing to attend 3 consecutive meetings without a reasonable excuse shall be deemed to have vacated office. These meetings shall be taken to mean executive meetings as well as general meetings. So any officer that fails to attend 3 executive meetings and they do not give a plausible excuse for not being in attendance shall be deemed, not will be decided, or we'll think about it, or we'll think once you've missed 3 executive meetings, you are viewed as having vacated office, right? And these meetings shall be considered. So you can't miss, you can't say, well, I missed 3 meetings, but I came, and one of them was a general meeting, so it doesn't count. It's all meetings, so executive and general, 3 consecutive meetings. The principal, this is also important, the principal shall be an ex officio, shall have ex officio status on all committees, i.e. he shall take part in the business of the meeting, but shall have no right to vote. So yes, the principal has ex officio status and therefore can attend your meetings, executive, and, well, they're supposed to be in the general meeting. So executive meeting can participate, they can make suggestions, or offer advice, anything like that in the meeting. They just can't vote on any decisions that the executive will and can make. And last one will be unit members shall follow the policies and principles of the national executive members laid down in Article 2 and Article 3 of the Constitution. All right, so that basically covers the unit members. Any questions so far? Let me just pause to take any questions because we're running close to the end. And I think I may have to continue in the next session, but let me pause for any questions at this point.
Sure. Hi, Allyson. So one question,
Hi,
right?
Evelyn.
Hello.
Yeah, Evelyn, I hear you.
Yes, so I see it says that the principal shall have ex officio status on all committees, right? So is it that a committee is a meeting, or is it that you have a committee? So for example, I know some PTAs, like they have committees who would, let's say maybe a welfare committee, or some kind of committee, finance committee or something like that. Is it that the principal could be an ex officio member of that particular committee, or is it that the principal is just an ex officio member of meetings?
Right, so she's an ex officio member of the executive as a whole, but she can be an ex officio member of a committee. So she can sit on a committee to help guide, right, or give information or help the committee structure, right? Especially, particularly if it's something that is targeted for the school. So if, for say, you're planning to, let's be ambitious, right? Build over a new building for the school, right? And you have a committee assigned for that. Ideally, the principal should be on it because remember, this is a building she will have to oversee and she will have to maintain and manage.
Yes.
Right? Going forward. So yes, she needs to be on the committee because, I mean, she needs to be aware of what's going on at all times. I mean, she can't vote on any decisions that the committee makes, but she can lend input.
Okay, because well, our principal comes to our general meetings, but I've never invited her to any of our executive meetings. So I was just wondering about that, seeing that they have ex officio status on all committees. We don't really have committees. What we would have is like an executive meeting, and then we'll make decisions from there. But on my end, I would meet with her one-on-one, to discuss whatever, get ideas from her. We would go back and forth with ideas, but that would be a one-on-one. So what I'm wondering is it that she would have to be invited to our executive meetings, or is it okay if she's there for just general?
Well, you can invite her to executive meetings. Honestly, that she should be part. Even if you don't want to invite her to every single one you're having for the term, at least invite her to one for the term. That would be my advice.
Okay.
Right?
Thank
Because
you.
remember, she will see things that you mightn't see. Right?
Well, that's true.
Right, so she may be able to lend, and if she's a principal who's there for a while, she has a bit of a history that can probably give you a guidance, or give you a different outlook on something, right? Or something you might be thinking about doing, and she will say, well, we did that before and this is what happened, so you may need to take a different approach to it, all those kinds of things. So my advice would be to invite at least to one of your executive meetings for the term.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? No? No other questions? Okay, well, I'm going to stop here at this point because I think we covered, there are a couple of points that I will go over. Well, I will continue to cover in the next session, right? But I think what I wanted to accomplish or cover 4 units for this session has been done, and we're close to somewhere like 3 minutes away. So I don't want to continue on, right, and keep everybody back. I want to make sure that our sessions are concise and confined, and give everybody the information they need. If I need to do a third one, then I will do a third one if necessary. But my advice to all members is to try and go back and start to read your constitution, start to understand it, because if coming down, I mean, I'm not going to stay on region forever. We are looking for our unit members to step up at some point down the road and take over. And you'll need to understand a lot of what happens in the constitution to be able to do that, to serve the organization at a higher level. And that's part of the reason why we're ensuring that everyone understands the constitution, because we all form part of the National Parent Teachers Association. So if no other member has any questions, I'll just hand back over. Sorry.
Good night. I would just like to ask a question.
Sure, go ahead, Mr.
The Constitution, I know, could be bought, but does the PTA body have a hard copy that could be PDF? You just share it and we could PDF it, or we have to go? We could go online and probably Google it, but just for easy access. Or
I understand where you're coming from, and we have made that petition. We have made a petition to National for that, but they indicated that it's a copyrighted document, and they did not want it to be like soft copy like that. We can bring it up again to them, because if members are asking for it, we are obligated to share your wishes with the National Executive. So when we have our next General Council, which is in 2 weeks' time, I will bring it up again about having a version of it that is soft copied. I believe our suggestion is that we have it like an ebook that can be purchased, right? So I will bring it up again, right, for ease of access. Yeah.
Differently, does the PTA carry their constitution that could also be accessed? Okay, like does the PTA body has their own constitution, like their rules and regulations that that you could
like an individual unit?
Yes, to refer to.
No. No. The constitution that we are discussing now is the constitution for the entire organization at all levels.
Okay.
So
and does that
the Constitution applies to the national, regional, and unit members at all levels.
Okay, and does it come in copy that could be accessed? So that you know
Not at the
sometimes.
moment. Not at the moment, but like you indicated, you wanted an easy access. So we did bring it up before to the National Council, to the National Executive about having a version like that, and I will bring it up again.
Okay, thank
But
you,
for
Ms.
now,
Medina.
but for now we only have it hard copy.
Okay, all right then, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Allyson, I would like to find out, is there any conflict in terms of the Constitution and the guidelines set out by the MOE? Because sometimes as a PTA body, you will want to do certain things in the school and you will get a pushback and they will say, well, this is not part of the MOE guidelines. So they instruct us that the school is guided by the MOE guidelines, but then if we are guided by something else, is there a conflict between the two? Does the MOE know what the constitution of the PTA body is so that there wouldn't be
Right.
conflict?
I know there's not the MOU is not aware, but you notice there was a clause that says we are required to cooperate and work with, but we cannot dictate the policies of the MOE, right? So what we can do is that we can lobby, discuss whatever with regard to that. Any policies that we are seeing that are directly affecting how the PTA works, and we can lobby the Ministry of Education to maybe adjust or make a concession with regard to that, which we have gotten in a couple of cases, having discussed it with the district office. So we've had the district office support us. With our unit was having an issue because of MOE policy, and the district office did step in and instruct the principal, yes, while as a policy, you can make exception in this regard because it's for the PTA, and they were able to give the PTA that concession. So what we are required to do is work in that regard, work with the MOE with regard to the policies. And I think that was one of the clauses I did go over earlier.
Okay.
Good night, Madam Secretary. Hannah here from Degamartin Government Primary
Hi,
School.
Ms. Garcia, how are you?
Would there be the copies of the Constitution on sale on Saturday? Because my team would love to get copies, but we've requested and it's we haven't gotten word back yet as of late if it's available.
Okay, well, we had copies available at the last general meeting we had at the end of May. We had a few copies. It wasn't much, just about 6 copies, but we can make arrangements to have copies available at the boot camp for sale. So I'll make sure and get that organized.
Okay, thank you very much. That will be great.
No problem. Okay, any other questions? If not, I'm going to hand over to...
Allyson, good night.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Sissy.
What I was wondering is how difficult is it to get the district into the schools if the PTA is having an issue with the principal or with getting things done in the school?
Not difficult at all. If it is you're having an issue and you don't want to approach the district office directly, you can go through us, the regional executive. We can discuss with the district office the issue for you on your behalf, right? I work right next door, so I am usually the person who is requested, and we do have direct contact with the senior school supervisors as well, right? So it's easy for us to reach out to them if you're having any issues. But the first thing you need to be aware of which school supervisor is assigned to your school, right? If you're not aware, I can find out for you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any other questions? Because we are like 5 minutes over and I don't want to keep anybody else back. I want to make sure that my sessions are timely. Okay, if no other questions, I'm going to hand over to Madam PRO so she can close us out this session.
Thank you, Madam First Vice President. And indeed, we are at 6 minutes past 7. I want to thank you all for your active participation in this evening's session. It was really insightful, the first couple of articles that we were able to cover, which was 1 to 6. At this time, it was really insightful, very informative, and of course, the Q&A, the questions really brought home some of the points and even answered some of the important or the burning questions that we all had in our separate units. A special thank you again to our first Vice President, Ms. Allyson Lacroix, for this thorough presentation, or what would conclude on Monday to be a thorough presentation of the Constitution. And as we continue this series, I want to remind you all that the second part of this Constitution session takes place next Monday, same time at 6 p.m. And we encourage you to join in just to complete and finalize. Those who weren't there from your region today, have them jump on Monday. Some important housekeeping, please note that the link is still available for you to register as having attended. That is important to us. And also our public relations training session that was scheduled for tomorrow will be consolidated into one session on Thursday. So tomorrow is basically a day where we could prepare for the other sessions. On Wednesday, we would have our regular PTA planning session with our second Vice President, Mr. Arnaldo Russell. And then we jump into our final session at Rosary, right? Thank you again tonight. Have a safe and productive night and continue to lead with purpose and knowledge and unity.